A very good evening and welcome along to our usual sporting date on Sheffield Live TV on Talking Sheffield of a Thursday evening. I'm delighted today to be joined by a guy that was affectionately nicknamed the Ginger Mourinho during his time at a certain club in Sheffield. And being as he is the special one, certainly in regard to many people watching of an Owl's persuasion tonight, he is not just the special one, but he's the one and only guest. And that is a rare accolade, I can tell Gary Megson tonight, because there is just so much we want to talk to him about. And Gary, it's been a while.
It has. It's a big build-up. This better be good, isn't it?
Well, you still qualify as the Ginger Mourinho because you've got enough of it left,
just about, yeah. Right. But no, when you say it's been a while, I'm not one of these that seeks out the publicity and goes on to this, that, and the other. Like, so it's you know, it's just one of those things that I haven't been on the television or the radio or anything like that because I find other things to do.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. What other things you find to do? Because it's now, I was shocked to discover, it's nearly 4 years since you left Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And that's an awful long time for an active manager, arguably in the peak of his career, to be out of the game.
It is, but it's, you know, when you say out the game, I've had a couple of opportunities. I had 3, but not in management, in coaching. I didn't want to do that. Last year I had an opportunity to manage, but I didn't want to be traipsing all over the show. And things change for you as you get older. You know, when I first started, I lived in Norwich and I was offered the Blackpool job. And you didn't have a choice, you took it. So, you know, I found myself leaving the family, driving 4 hours up to Blackpool. It weren't going brilliantly. And then driving back again on a Saturday night and going again on Sunday afternoon. So it was a long trek, but you had to do it. But as you get older and you've got your CVs better and obviously because your career's gone okay, it puts you in different circumstances as well. So now you find yourself doing things that I want to do as opposed to have to do. And I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, but I think it's just one of those things that happens as you get a bit older.
You've had a successful career. Gary Megson, former player and manager of Sheffield Wednesday, in case any of you didn't actually know that, I'm sure everybody does. Yeah. Managed 9 clubs, having played for 9 clubs. So, I mean, you've had a very successful career, and dare I say, you wouldn't have to go back into football out of financial necessity.
No, that's what in a roundabout way. I was trying to say, like I said, don't it sound arrogant, but you know, it happens, and we're fortunate that happens, that you can pick and choose. And you know, I found myself when I left Wednesday, to me, it was under a cloud because of what went on. And then you know, I heard some of the rubbish that was put about down there about why I'd left, and none of that was true. And I found myself thinking, right, well, if I do go back into work, I want to work for a certain kind of chairman, a certain kind of club, and a certain place. And, you know, if those don't come about, then fine, I'm happy enough doing what I do.
So you've not found the right club or the right chairman, or they haven't found you yet?
Like I say, I was off. I spoke to somebody in February, and I hadn't met the fellow before, but he the chairman of this football club, and I thought, like, I would really like to work for him. He seemed a really good guy. And one of these chairmen who, obviously, he's got a few quid, but he was actually using his money to further the club, as opposed to some I've worked for that are using the club to further themselves. And I don't want to do that because it's like, you know, with my personality and the way that I manage football clubs, there's bound to be a clash. So, and as I say, things change for you. And, you know, I just didn't want to do that anymore. I'm not saying I wouldn't go back into it, because if all the things dropped right for me, I would do that. And you know, people say, oh, you've been out for 4 years, as you've just said, which, you know, it is a long time. And, you know, I suppose at championship level, you're looking at maybe you've missed 160 games. So I say, yeah, but, you know, the previous 600 and the previous 600 I played before that. So I've been in it for a long time before. So
600 odd games as a manager, is it?
Probably more than that, I would think so.
So 1,000's still attainable, but you have to get back.
No, yeah. But like I said, if I don't get back, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I would like to get back, but at the right football club. But you become a lot more choosing.
You did say you left Sheffield Wednesday under a cloud, but your last match is worth reliving now, and we'll also talk about what you feel about the club turning around and the revival because of the part that you played in it right at the start. But you couldn't have had for you a better finale, could you? Because I remember that derby at Hillsborough, all the rumours were abounding anyway that you were on the brink, but you beat Sheffield United 1-0, and that was a real turning point, wasn't it? Chris O'Grady scored.
It was it wasn't a turning point for myself. It was, you know, I'd heard the rumours. I knew what was going off anyway. I was expecting the sack because of what was going on at the football club.
You were surprised it didn't come before the derby.
Oh yeah, you know. Because, but I was expecting it for 2 months before that because some of the things that were happening, people were working against Sheffield Wednesday. They were supposed to be working for them, and they were working against Sheffield Wednesday, which, as a manager, I'm not going to put up with. As a Sheffield Wednesday manager, I'm certainly not going to have that. So there were clashes, and you know, we had in my time as Wednesday's manager, we had a horrendous week. And looking back when I did, I thought, well, we haven't played that differently to any other time before. We went down to Exeter, got beat 2-1, but murdered them. Chesterfield was exactly the same, got beat 1-0, given a penalty away from a signing that I didn't make. And and then we played, I think it was Stevenage at home, we got beat 1-0 in that game as well. And it was 7 days, and you think, how's that happen? And I was fully expecting the sack, because I thought people were just waiting for that scenario to happen. And then it just looked to me as if they expected us to get beat by Sheffield United, who were doing okay at the time. And it was, if I could have, with all that rubbish that was going on, if I could have picked a scenario to leave, that wouldn't be far off it. You know, and I wasn't born in Sheffield, but I consider myself a Sheffield lad. Wednesday through and through, playing United at Hillsborough and beating them 1-0, getting a load of stick from United supporters because they knew it was going on as well. But I actually used to enjoy that. So long as, like, you know, when you get in that banter, they were all singing I'm getting sacked in the morning, and they were close. It was 3 days on.
Who could have predicted that we'd be sitting here 4 years later and you're still not back in a job as a manager?
It's, if I said to you now, and I said to anybody who follows football, I'll ask you, how do you judge a manager? What would you say?
Well, I judge a manager on his record, and I think your record, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, your record bears scrutiny.
Of course it does, but like you would say results.
You would?
If people are going to say, how do you judge a manager? One word answer, they go results. Well, I've been sacked in third spot twice. You know, really? I kept Bolton up, and there were all sorts of things happening there. And you look at them now, but I was sacked there as well. So it's not about results. I've seen other managers lose their jobs as well in second and fourth spot, like Lee Clark at Huddersfield. And it can't be about results, and it's changing all the time.
We'll come back to Bolton later. That's on a very, very long list of questions here, is Bolton Wanderers. But you're a combative character, and you've been combative with more than... Milan Mandrick was the chairman and the owner of Sheffield Wednesday at the time of year. He was the guy that appointed you, and Sheffield Wednesday fans, quite rightly in my view, would feel some gratitude, a lot of gratitude to Milan. He took the club when nobody else would, and during his reign things turned around, certainly for the better. But you certainly are a combative manager, as you've been with other chairmen, and that's part of your nature, isn't it?
No, it's like... I remember once talking to George Graham a long time ago. I wasn't even in management. I was a coach at Norwich, and he says, you know, people call me like hard and a disciplinarian. He says, I'm not. I'm professional. I do my job properly. I think I do, and I've said to other people, and you know, they go, oh, you fall out with people, and you do. If you're doing your job properly, you're bound to. Now, I've fallen out with press, chairman, supporters, players, whatever it may be, but always over the same thing, is me thinking that they aren't doing the right thing for the football club that I'm currently working for. And I'm not. If somebody says something and I don't think it's right, I'm not one of those that nods my head, but really inside I'm shaking my head.
We know you weren't sacked because of results at Sheffield Wednesday. There was more to it, and anybody could read between the lines on that, and quite a few of us actually knew that was the case. Is there anything now that you, looking back, I mean, you're a guy that doesn't hold back. You give an opinion straight, and you can be combustible. Do you actually ever look back on that and regret maybe one or two things you might have said in the background, thinking you could even have been manager there now?
No, because I wouldn't have been their manager now. I was surprised that, like I say, I thought I was getting sacked 2 months before that. We went down to, who did we play? Played Yeovil. And we were beating Yeovil 1-0. And you know, there were things going on behind the scenes. And it was rocky most of the way through down there. And we were beating Yeovil 1-0. We kicked the ball out because they had an injury. And then we were expecting them to kick it back, which they did. They kicked the ball back. And the young lad chased the ball down, and Richard O'Donnell collided with Jonesy, and they scored. And so I said to the, I can't remember the Yeovil manager's name, which isn't right.
Was it Gary Johnson at that time?
No, it wasn't. It's someone they'd been having a change.
Terry Skiverton.
That was it. So yeah, that was it. So I said, no problem. Give us the ball and let us score. He went, no, I can't do that. That was Well, I'd done that. I'd done that as a manager before when I was manager of Nottingham Forest.
You did. Leicester, wasn't it?
Leicester, yeah. We played Nottingham Forest, and it was the game that Clark had a heart attack at half time.
Yes,
they called the game off, which rightly so, and Forest were winning 1-0. So we let them score the first goal, and it's easier said than done that, because one of the things you can't do is if you tell your players too early and then it gets out there. With the gambling that goes on now, they would know they're going to score the first goal really early on, and who's going to score it. So we had to keep it under our hat. I told the manager at the time of Forest that we will let them score the first goal. I'd knocked on the door 5 minutes before kick-off, and I said, and I'll let you know after they toss the coin who's going to score. So I told our lot what to do. He told their lot, and we let the goalkeeper go through and score. And I've asked Skiverton to let us do the same, and he says no. And crikey,
I can imagine.
Yeah, but I thought I was getting sacked at half time. And I remember saying to Chris Evans, I said, "We don't turn this round, we're gone tomorrow morning."
So you lasted a bit longer than you thought. And you had that derby.
Yeah, it was always like that.
That derby glory. Sheffield Wednesday now sit in a healthy position, a healthy situation financially and on the field. We'll talk about that as the show goes on, how you rate the players and the squad. I know, well, before we just get into that question and your satisfaction at being in on the start, do you ever see them? Do you ever see Wednesday?
Only on the TV. I only watch games on the TV. I wouldn't go down there now.
You won't go down on principle?
No, there's a couple of people down there I wouldn't want to come across. As you've just said, I'm combustible, and it wouldn't be particular.
So there is a time in the future when
I would go, and if ever there was a game that I would want to go to, I would just go and sit in the North Stand or on the Cop or something, but not where I would expect to be.
Even if there's nobody around that you didn't particularly want to see, you would still...
I'd go there. But like I say, it's difficult for me because I'd love the football club, but there were things going on there, and because of my love for the football club, I found it really, really difficult to accept that some of the things that were happening at Sheffield Wednesday. And crikey, so
it must be agonising for you though, because of this love for the club. You're steeped in it. Your father was the captain. There's a lot of love for you, by the way, on Twitter. I know you don't do Twitter, but my phone's been pinging all day with people sort of wishing you well and looking forward to this programme. With your emotional feeling for the club, not to actually go and see it.
No, I was talking to a mate of mine on Tuesday, Pulis. I was talking to Tony Pulis, and he's chatting away, and he says, "Are you going to games?" And I was. They stuck me on garden leave, which I hate that. I really hate that. I don't think there's any reason to do that kind of thing, and all it does, it keeps you out of the public eye for a year. And it's not right, because the other way round, if the manager does really well and goes to Real Madrid, they don't expect their compensation money over a 12-month period every month and sticking on garden leave. It doesn't happen. So I think that's wrong, and I think it should be banned. But it's happened to me now twice.
It's a regular practice everywhere you look.
Only with certain chairmen.
But a lot.
Actually. It is, but only with certain people. There are a few, like the guy at Stoke, absolute gentleman. It's not worked out. Well, it did work out. We were second, I think. I left there because they sold the club, but they made sure that what was in my contract got sorted within 5 minutes of it happening. And you remember things like that. But I was talking to Tony, and I said, when I first left Wednesday, I used to go to games twice a week, and you're doing it again, you don't want to sound arrogant, but you're not watching a football match for the same reasons as some of the supporters are or other people there. When I go to games when I was managing, you're watching it for how other teams are playing, if you're playing against them, and you've got them coming up, but you're watching players, and you're looking for players all the time, and you're looking for, like, you don't watch the game as a form of entertainment, if you know what I mean. And, you know, after a while, I did it on, whilst I was on that chuffing garden leave. Then I did it again for another year, and then I start thinking, like, you know, I'm going to games and going to games, travelling all over the country, and nothing's happening here. And the same question all the time would be, why are you not working? You know, what are you doing with yourself? And I got sick of it. So, and I said to Tony, I said, the only way I can deal with it is just not bother with it, you know, because I don't want to be in that position. It's probably not right from my own perspective, being seen, but, you know, I don't want to be one of these people that's just like clinging on to football. And, you know, and one of the other things that happened to me is I told the local journalist, Tomo, at the time, I don't want to be the ex-face of Sheffield Wednesday. Every time something happens down at Hillsborough, well, let's ask Meggy what he thinks. You know, stood outside the ground in the pouring rain, giving your opinion. I don't want to be one of them. And, you know, it gets you on the television if that's what you want to do. But with each club throughout the country, I'd probably, and you'd probably be able to name of, if something goes wrong at West Ham, who will they drag outside? You'd be able to give me the name, and, like, you know, Liverpool, Everton, all that type of stuff. And I didn't want to do that, so.
And also be linked with the job as well.
Yeah.
In certain circumstances.
Yeah.
And you did say when you left, that, or did you say, I'm not quite sure, that you might, or you'd want to come back one day as manager, and you thought it might happen?
No, I don't think I said it might happen. I would love to go back down there, working for proper people, like, you know, and I think they've got that now. And you know, I think the manager now is doing a terrific job in my view, and some of the things he's doing, and like, you know, I had to hear certain things down there. The one thing when the new chairman came in, and I think he's doing brilliantly for the football club, is they got persuaded, I presume, we're going to have a signings committee.
Yeah,
now,
that was nonsense in my view.
It's nonsense.
He's learned from it, though.
That's what I mean. It didn't last very long, did it?
No.
And now I was hearing stuff that the manager was doing, and I'm thinking, I'd have done exactly the same things. It just can't happen. You know, if you're a manager, and like you ask enough, if I ask you, we've all got different opinions. What do you think of so-and-so as a player? You'll
just
go,
slows the process.
Yeah. And in the end, you've got to make a decision.
Yeah.
So you're better making that decision, taking it on the chin if you get it wrong, and you do get pats on the back if you get it right, but you're better making it in the first place on your own. Otherwise, you'll disappear up your own backside asking everybody else. Now, if, like, you know, I worked for a chairman who told me, he says, we've got this player, he says, he's from Iran, he's fantastic, and like, I'm fine. International, he's 23 years old or something, he's got 56 caps, I think he said at the time, and I'm fine. Like, so, and I saw him, and he was 5'3" in his stiletto heels. He just, and I'm saying, he just can't play for me, because if I was playing against us, I'm telling you, where every single ball we knock is going, it's going on his head, he can't deal with it. But people see things differently, and I don't want a 5'3" fullback. No. Like, but if you let somebody else dictate who you're going to sign, you're near enough stuck.
There's a lot of it in the game, though. You know, you look around and it's become the norm.
Of course, but that's my point about, like, picking and choosing. I've had director of football, and they've got a different agenda. My agenda, and especially at Wednesday, was just some of the things I used to say at Wednesday. I go, oh, I don't believe in myself. I once said, Sheffield Wednesday, even if we're in the Premiership, we've got to be in the top 10, because this is a top 10 club in the country. And a manager who's in the Premiership at the moment rang me up the day after and went, go on then, let's go through. And I went, what are you on about? And he'd seen it. And he went, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Tottenham. He rattled these off, and it was getting a bit close towards 10. But I said, no, Wednesday's bigger than Tottenham and all this.
Hey, but before we're going to prolong this in the second half, it can be top 10 in the country.
Without a doubt. Well, you've seen it, and I've seen it. It can do.
It's on the way back, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Like, right. They've got a chairman now, and I liked the stuff that I've read that you said. He wants them in the Premiership in 2 years, which I thought was great. Not 1 year.
Hey, actually. Hidden agenda, 1 year, if he can get it.
Of course he does, but what he's saying is, like, not everything's got to be done at this minute, and it's got to be built, and it's like, it's better than some donut going in and saying, I want this and I want that. It puts a load of pressure on people.
I hate to break in, I really do. We're heading for a break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. James Gregg will be here to round up the other sport. There's so much more I want to ask this fella. Join us with Gary Megson again in a few minutes. See you then.